Hola a todos. Desde secundaria también nos quisimos sumar a este desafío de lectura y elegimos para compartir con ustedes una historia de O. Henry que se llama The Gift of the Magi. $1.87. That was all. Every day, when she went to the shops, she spent very little money. She bought the cheapest meat, the cheapest vegetables, and when she was tired, she still walked around and round the shops to find the cheapest food. She saved every cent possible. Delia counted the money again. There was no mistake. $1.87. That was all. And the next day was Christmas. She couldn't do anything about it. She could only sit down and cry. So she sat there in the poor little room and she cried. Delia lived in this poor little room in New York with her husband, James Dillingham Young. They also had a bedroom and a kitchen and a bathroom, all poor little rooms.
James Dillingham Young was lucky because he had a job, but it was not a good job. This room took most of his money. Delia tried to find work, but times were bad and there was no work for her. But when Mr. James Dillingham Young came home to his room, Mrs. James Dillingham Young called him Jim and put her arm round him, and that was good.
Delia stopped crying and she washed her face. She stood by the windows and looked at a grey cat on a grey walk in the grey road. Tomorrow was Christmas Day and she has only $1.87 to buy a Jim Christmas present. Her Jim. She wanted very much to buy him something really fine, something to show how much she loved him. Suddenly, Delia turned round and ran over to look in the glass on the wall. Her eyes were bright. Now, the James Dillingham Young had two very special things. One was his old watch. It once belonged to his father and before that to his grandfather. The other special thing was Delia's hair.
Quickly, Delia let down her beautiful long hair. It fell down her back and it was almost like a coat around her. Then she put her hair up again quickly. For a second or two, she stood still and cried a little. Then she put on her old coat and her old brown hat, turned and left the room. She went downstairs and out into the road, and her eyes were bright. She walked along by the shops and shopped when she came to a door with Madame Eloise's hair on it. Inside there was a fat woman. She did not look like an Eloise.
Will you buy my hair? Tilly asked. I buy hair, Madame replied. Take your hat off then and show me your hair. The beautiful brown hair fell down. $20, Madame said, and she touched the hair with her hand. Quick, cut it off. Give me the money, Delia said. The next 2 hours went quickly. Delia was happy because she was looking round the shops for Jim's present. At last she found it. It was a gold chain for the watch. Jim loved his watch, but it had no chain. When Delia saw this gold chain, she knew immediately that it was right for Jim. She must have it. The shop took $21 from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. When she arrived there, she looked at her very short hair in the glass. What can I do with it? She thought. For the next half an hour, she was very busy. Then she looked again in the glass. Her hair was now in very small curls all over her head. Oh dear, I look like a schoolgirl, she said to herself. What's Jim going to say when he sees me?
At 7 o'clock, the dinner was nearly ready, and Delia was waiting. I hope he thinks I'm still beautiful. The door opened, and Jim came in and closed it. He looked very thin, and he needed a new coat. His eyes were on Delia. She could not understand the look on his face, and she was afraid. He was not angry or surprised. He just watched her with that strange look on his face. Delia ran to him. "Jim," she cried, "don't look at me like that. I sold my hair because I wanted to give you a present. It will soon be long again. I had to do it, Jim. Say Happy Christmas, please. I have a wonderful present for you."
"You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim. "Yes, I cut it off and sold it," Delia said. "But don't you love me anymore, Jim?" "I'm still me." Jim looked around the room. "You say your hair has gone?" he said, almost stupidly. "Yes, I told you, because I love you." "Shall I get the dinner now, Jim?" Suddenly, Jim put his arms round his Delia. Then he took something from his pocket and put it on the table. "It doesn't matter if your hair is short or long, but if you open that, you'll see why I was unhappy at first."
Excited, Delia pulled off the paper. Then she gave a little scream of happiness. But a second later, there were cries of happiness, because there were the combs for her beautiful hair. When she first saw the combs in the shop window, she wanted them. They were beautiful combs, expensive combs, and now they were her combs. But she no longer had her hair. Delia picked them up and held them. Her eyes were full of love. "But my hair will be so long again, Jim." And then Delia remembered. She jumped up and cried, "Oh, oh!" She ran to get Jim's beautiful present, and she held it out to him.
"Isn't it lovely, Jim? I look everywhere for it. Now you will want to look at your watch 100 times a day. Give it to me. Give me your watch, Jim. Let's see it with its new chain." But Jim did not do this. He sat down, put his hands behind his head, and he smiled. "Delia," he said, "let's keep our present for a time. They are so nice. You see, I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. And now let's have dinner."
The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men who brought gifts to the newborn Christ child. They were the first to give Christmas gifts. Being wise, their gifts were doubtlessly wise ones. And here I have told you the story of two children who were not wise. Each sold the most valuable thing they owned in order to buy a gift for the other. But let me speak a last word to the wise of these days. Of all who give gifts, these two were the most wise. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the most wise. Everywhere they are the wise ones. They are the Magi.